Welcome to the Washington Tattoo podcast, where we champion education, celebrate community, and unite the very best of humanity. Fueled by world-class military precision and cultural excellence, the Washington Tattoo produces unforgettable immersive experiences, creating an atmosphere for people, organizations, and businesses to connect, network, and build impactful relationships. We invite you to listen to this episode of the Washington Tattoo podcast, where the world's musical traditions come to life. Thank you so much for joining us. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Washington Tattoo podcast. And we are super excited today to have an incredibly special guest, my dear friend, Kevin Conquest. Kevin, how are you today?
Doing really well. Good afternoon, Mark.
Awesome. So Drum Major Kevin Conquest is an internationally respected figure in military music and ceremonial drill, known for his role with the world-renowned Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. He has a distinguished career leading the massed pipes and drums on the historic esplanade in front of Edinburgh Castle. Kevin embodies the highest standards of tradition, precision, and pageantry. In 2025, he was appointed as the inaugural senior drum major for the Washington Tattoo, where he brings an immense wealth of experience and deep-rooted passion for arts heritage to the United States. His leadership marks a historic milestone for the Washington Tattoo growth into a premier international celebration of music, service, and culture. So, Kevin, I just as a friend am grateful for your friendship, but your experience, your passion, and your talent is absolutely something I am honored to have you on board. So thank you so much for what you're doing with the tattoo this year.
Well, thanks, Mark, and you're welcome, but also thank you. This is an incredible honor to be part of this show. And I'm sure as we talk, we'll get into some of the reasons behind it, but absolutely amazing opportunity. And I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, I would love to always hop in with our guests on a little bit of their background and what made them, turn into the person that they are today. So if we could we just discuss a little bit of your background as a drum major and then that connection to the Edinburgh Tattoo?
Absolutely, we can. So it's a very long story, and I'm going to try to condense it down a little bit. But I came into all of this through the marching band world in school. So I went to school, junior high school and high school in Southern California. And the marching band scene in Southern California had a wonderful connection back to the UK. There was a very pivotal band director, Mr. Norman, who was the director at Glendora High School outside of LA. And much like Saul Hurok, who brought the regimental bands over on tour in the 1950s. He started doing that as an entertainment promoter. Uh, that had an influence on Mr. Norman, and Mr. Norman was pivotal in creating this whole theme of British-themed uh, marching bands, and some of the high schools even still to this day have pipe bands. So I went to Vista High School in San Diego County, and we had a regimental band format. So we had guards uniforms. The drum major wore the bearskin and the scarlet tunic with the gold lace, and we had pipers. We had a pipe band at one point. The pipe band was gone by the time I got there, but we had that entire theme, and it permeated what we did. So being a saxophone player all through school, and I got to high school and we started doing our first marching band practices. And first time we did a parade practice and I saw the drum major out front with the bearskin and the mace, I said I was going to do that. So everybody laughs at me. I'm 13 years old, and everybody's laughing at me because I entered school a year earlier than people in my class here. So I was smaller than everybody else for those first couple of years, right? And they're looking at me, they're like, dude, there's no way you're going to be a drum major. That you'll never do it. And I said, no, just you wait and see. And from there, I just got a mace right away and started learning from that drum major, and found other teachers along the way. Really found myself ingrained in the culture. And then from there, also started becoming interested in pipe bands. I have to tell you that with the schools that had pipe bands, there'd be pipers warming up in the parking lot. And while many of my classmates were running away from the sound of the pipes, I was running towards the sound of the pipes, and I really wanted to learn it. It was something that I was looking to continue music outside of high school after I graduated and carry on and do something else. So my senior year, I started learning pipes.
I
And
love it. I love it.
Joined a pipe band right as soon as I graduated high school, and then started learning drumming as well. I did do a little bit of drumming in high school, played cymbals on the drum line. It was great. But pipe band was a chance to open up an entire world for me. And when it comes to things like the tattoo circuit, uh, the Edinburgh Tattoo, well, Edinburgh Tattoo at the time, now Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. That was something that we had known about. So as part of our British theme in the pipe band, or in the school band, we put on a tattoo at the end of every school year, just in our school
Oh, wow.
gymnasium, and it was amazing to get experience with that part of the culture right away. And we did a great job with it. We even had one of the band booster parents put a giant castle up in the back of the gym made out of plywood. He painted it himself, and
Wow.
you wouldn't know the difference. It was so amazing to see what we could put together and do, but that all started to fall into the world. And we would hear about this tattoo concept, and no one knew what it was, especially when you're coming into something you've never done before. So then they would mention, well, we sort of model it after this thing in Edinburgh called the Edinburgh Tattoo, and I didn't know what that was. So you start finding out a little bit more, and the internet was not what it is today. So we didn't have social media. We didn't have that. So you either had postcards, you had people that had been there if you happen to find it, or you had books with pictures, right?
Mhm.
And then from there, I was able to finally get a videotape of the Edinburgh Tattoo. And
Wow.
I wanted to do this right. I wanted to fully immerse myself and say, if I was going to do this as a drum major in pipe bands, I was going to do it all the way, or none of the way. Um, so of the videotapes that I would watch, besides all the movies and things that we would watch as kids, because we're the same generation, we're the same age, you
Yep,
know,
yep, yep.
uh, the tapes that I would burn out in the VCR were the Edinburgh Tattoo
Mhm.
and videotapes of the Grade One pipe bands at the World Pipe Band Championships of that time,
Sure.
and videotapes of the drum major competitions. And I burned those tapes out completely, but I would watch that all the time, and I would get the next year every time the next edition came out, the next show. I would watch it. That's where I learned my drill. And I had plenty of teachers along the way as well, but that's really where I started that. So it's
Amazing.
been an amazing ride to then get to the point of being in the tattoo.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. No, I think it's incredible because I mean, if you think about your formative years in high school, right? So between like the ages depends if you're an early riser at 12, maybe you're showing a little bit of maturity, but between 14 to 22 years old, you're really like absorbing what it is you want to be and like what kind of person you want to be.
Right.
And I think that's incredible. So when you first started to tap into this and you started to think through, that this is what you want to become, were there inspirational figures? You mentioned your band director, but like
Mhm.
like when it came into getting into pipe band, were there certain people that stuck out to you as an inspiration?
Tons of people in pipe band stuck out as inspiration. Uh, I was very fortunate to join the Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band here in Arizona. When we moved here in 1995, I joined the band right away. Um, the Hossack family, so Chris Hossack, who's been the longtime pipe major of Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band, he's been a very consistent force in my life. He's a second dad to me.
Mm,
Has always been encouraging, and to have the opportunity to step into a pipe band and be a drum major, but then also be allowed to learn the instruments with them along the way and find my way into the drum corps and play pipes with the band as well. It wrapped up a total experience for me to be in a pipe band. Plenty of drum majors along the way. This is a community, and we all do this together. Some I almost don't want to mention the names because I know I'm going to leave somebody out, but some very pivotal figures along the way from the competition side of the drum majoring world. Great role models in John Noble, Alan McBride, Roger Young, Brian Wilson,
mm,
Billy Jordan, and then from the mass bands side of the house, definitely learned a lot from Jim Harrington. And then also Jim Thompson from the Atlanta Pipe Band has been my life mentor. He has been just there with me ever since the very start
that's
of being in a
amazing.
pipe band, and I've learned the most from him.
That's so cool. I love hearing that because I mean, it makes those folks proud that they got to leave this legacy and this stewardship with you, which now you're doing with youth and working with,
Yes.
your own students, which I think that's what allows this community to transcend, all the crazy things that happen in the world, which there are plentiful. We have these traditions that we can hold on to because they do build character and they do build, inspiration in the next generation. So it's really cool. So let me ask this question. So starting off in California, going to Arizona, hearing about the Edinburgh Tattoo, burning out those VHS tapes.
Yep.
Walk me through, and I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to be exhaustive here, but like the process of trying to become a drum major in Edinburgh, and then following that, what did it feel like to be selected to do it?
Oh, what a process, and in a long way away. So when I first started watching all these things, and I started going over to Scotland to compete at the Worlds, and as part of that, my very first trip, I made sure that I got a ticket to the Edinburgh Tattoo and went to go see it in person, and that sort of started becoming a tradition. I didn't go every year, but I would start to make it part of my trip, right? Um, when I started watching all of this and using this as an inspiration, the possibility of performing in the Edinburgh Tattoo, now Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo, was not really a thing. I didn't think that would be possible. It was a dream. I mean, every kid has their dream, and drum majoring was certainly my first love. Um, I wanted to do it. I would, think like, wow, how could that be even possible? Funny side story on that. On one of the Columbia artist tours, when the Highlanders came through on their tour of North America,
Mhm.
our pipe band opened up at the show. We got to play in the
Oh,
lobby before the
wow.
show, and of course, as with all pipe band things, you make friends, and then after the show, we all go to the pub together, right? That's how
Mhm.
it works. And we're sitting around talking, and I even asked, and I was really young at the time, but I even asked the director of Army Bagpipe Music at the time, how would it be possible to get a civilian band like ours to come over and do the Edinburgh Tattoo? And we sort of mulled it over a little bit, but at that time in life, that was probably a bit of a non-starter, so it
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
quite work out. But I always thought about how could this even happen? What would it even look like? Um, Maybe around 2015ish, I started asking around to say, hey, what are some opportunities to play as a band member with one of the
Mhm.
bands that are attending? How would that even work? And then Piper's Trail came along around that same time, and Piper's Trail was a program to bring piping and drumming to schools across Scotland.
I
Um,
love it.
and they were doing the Edinburgh Tattoo, and they started opening up that opportunity for people from around the world to perform.
Incredible.
And I applied in 2017. At the end of 2017, I applied, and so that would be for the 2018 show. And I didn't get selected, and that's okay. A bit of a kick, right? You
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
oh no, but
We always get one. We all have one.
yeah, you have those significantly emotional events in life that kind of rock you for a second, and then you
Yeah,
you become
yeah.
a normal person again, and everything goes along.
Those are healthy. Those are healthy things for all of us.
Oh, it always happens, right? It happens somewhere down the road. But so I applied again because I knew this was something I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then I got selected. And I remember the morning that the email came through. Again, Edinburgh being 8 hours ahead of me, their workday is done by the time that I wake up, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh, I woke up to the email, and
Wow.
the subject looked very similar to the year prior when I didn't get selected. So I thought, oh no. But as I started reading it, it said that you've been selected and we'd like to offer you an appointment. And I leapt up. I was ready to go
Yeah.
right then and there. I confirmed it right away,
Yep,
confirmed
yep,
that email
yep.
right away, bought the plane ticket right away, and I was ready to go. And it's been an amazing adventure to be part of that band ever since. So from
Incredible.
2019 onward, I've been involved.
That's, I mean, congratulations, Kevin, on that. And I will definitely tell you, I'm sure there are versions of a happy dance that happen. And I will tell you, with each Washington tattoo build and the connections we made and the friendships we make, those emails, especially if you've gotten the email before where it's like, hey, thanks, but no thanks.
Right.
And then you get the next one where you finally cracked the code, or you built the right relationship, or even just a level of trust has been then built a little further. I mean, that's, congratulations on that. It's incredible.
Thank you.
So hopping from that to the first time you actually got to march, what did that feel like being on the Esplanade? And like, what are some memories that you have? I'm sure it was like a rush of emotions. I'm sure all of that's there, but then like there has to be that sense of pride that you really got to do this, and now you are a part of that story. So could you walk through some of those memories?
Absolutely, and the memories are plentiful. Every year comes with its a new set of memories, and it's funny when you're doing a show for an entire month. I can't say that I remember every single night
Yeah,
distinctly because
yeah,
the memories start to muddle together. But there
yeah,
are certainly things that happen on certain nights, or
yeah,
or first time something happens where you think, oh, what was that, and that becomes a core memory
yeah,
in my
yeah.
brain. I would say among the greatest memories of being on the Esplanade, the first time going through the drawbridge for a show. Uh, as part of that, they have the doors shut to the drawbridge and they're filling the tunnel with smoke. with
Yeah.
a fog machine. And when those doors kick open and Drummy shouts by the center quick march and the drums roll off and we start going, there's definitely a rush of emotion. I'm having it just even talking to you right now. There's that rush of emotion. But the weirdest thing, and it was an amazing feeling, was marching through the smoke.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you get to the end of that and the smoke clears. And next thing you know, you knew those people. I knew those people were on the other side of that wall. You can hear 8,000 people clamoring away before the show begins. You can hear them getting excited. But when you go through the smoke and the smoke clears, all of a sudden you see all of those people,
Yeah.
right? I'm seeing all these people and they're seeing all of us. It's
Yeah.
at the exact same moment. So it's a surreal feeling to go through the smoke and you can hear what we're playing and you can kind of see yourself, watching the ground a little bit because you can't really see anything in front of you. That clears, they see you, we see them, and all of a sudden all the camera flashes start going on as we start marching down the drawbridge and out onto the esplanade, and that is the wildest feeling.
Yeah.
It is
Uh,
so cool. I think other great memories along the way that that come with the tattoo. The first opportunity to lead the pipes and drums down the hill at the end of the night. One of
yeah.
the great things about being a drum major on the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo with the pipes and drums is we get a turn to take the bands from the castle down Castle Hill to the buses. As part of that, there's 8 to 9,000 people in the audience. But
Yeah.
then every night down at the roundabout, when we make that turn to go to the bus, there's another couple thousand people that were waiting there that night just to see the cast march out.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a secondary show in its own right. But to feel that rush of bringing everybody down the hill and to be the one to give the cutoff is an amazing feeling. And
I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's so I mean, so I've been on a couple different sides of that experience. So it's funny because I was a drummer in the Edinburgh Tattoo in Australia years ago, but I have actually never done the performance at the castle itself. But now I've been there to watch it several times. I've been on that bottom part of the Royal Mile when you start to come out and you see those thousands of folks that are there also waiting for it. So I've been in that spectator seat too.
Mhm.
But what's also really powerful is the history of literally the cobblestone streets that are there and the history that those buildings have seen, and being an American there.
Mhm.
Like, what is it for? I mean, you're leading, right? So you're a drum major, you have leadership responsibility, you obviously love the tradition, you have the respect for the tradition. What is it like being a leader with all of that going on around you? You have the performance, but
Mhm.
you also have, there are responsibilities involved. So what is that like?
It's an incredible responsibility to have, and to make sure that my whole premise as being a leader is to lead by example.
Yeah.
And you know, I cannot consciously ask somebody to do something that I would not do myself. And that comes down to the decorum on parade. That comes down to our level of dress. I learned this from my stepdad. He was a lifelong police officer and he would do his boots every night. Why would he do his boots every night? Because in his mind, if anyone could find something wrong with him, if there was something that they could pick on, or even just see as less than pristine in his mind,
Yeah.
it would be a chance to not be respected. And so taking that into the band world, drum majors lead by example. That's really it. So the responsibilities for us, it's quite a bit. From the musical side of things, unlike a competition pipe band, which really focuses around the pipe major and the drum sergeant for the musical responsibilities, drum majors on a tattoo are also the conduit to the drum corps, and that's
Okay.
coming from the military tradition. Drum major, it was a drummer who rose up from the ranks in the corps of drums to become drum major. So we have a lot of input and pass back and forth between the senior drum major and the director of Army Bagpipe Music
Yeah.
regarding what's going on musically with the show. We have to pass that information back to the drum corps. As drum majors on parade, we are file leaders. So each file in the mass pipes and drums formation has a drum major at the front. And as part of that, when we come out onto the esplanade, we're picking a marker. We're picking a point, whether that's visually ahead of us or if it's a point, we try not to look down on the march, but
Yeah.
if it's a point on the ground that we can use, and we have to consistently make sure that we're on the same spot every night. Reason for that is it goes to the quality of the show. We want that show to be the same show every single night so that when photos and videos come out, there's no discrepancies
Yeah.
and everything is rehearsed, everything is well done, everything is very repeatable. So we have to make sure that we're locked on. And also it's people leadership. As a drum major, in the case of the Tattoo Pipes and Drums, which is the tattoo company's own pipe band, we bring in 75 people every summer to be part of a pipe band. We fill 3 files of the mass pipes and drums. As part of that, we usually have around 17 to 20 different nationalities represented in the band.
Wow.
As part of that, there are language barriers, there are cultural barriers. We have people of all ages, all backgrounds, and as part of that, imagine moving 75 troops
Yeah.
normally, right? But
Yeah.
in different pipe band backgrounds as well. We may have people that have played at the top of grade one. We actually do. We have people who played in the top of grade one. We have people who have played in a grade four band at home, anywhere in between. And for a lot of these folks, this is a dream that is, a bucket list item, just like it was
Yep.
for me and for all of us, right? And they come in and they have the same stressors and the same concerns and the same
Yep.
um, wish list and anxieties and everything else as all of us. So to be a people leader for that band is another important aspect where, I'm doing everything from making sure that everybody's all right. Sometimes people need to have a talk. Because something's
Yep.
going on at home. They're away from home for a month as well. They're out of their comfort zone. Sometimes they just need a pep talk. Sometimes they need some help getting their uniform spruced up because some of them have never worn full dress before. So they
Yeah.
don't know how to iron spats. They don't know how to put a plaid on the Highland dress or on the doublet, right? So
Yeah.
everything about it is about leading by example and then being fully immersed in our people as well
Yeah.
to make sure
Well,
that they're comfortable and able to perform.
and I love that because at that point you're really talking about the emotional expectation that has to come with that leadership too, right? So if you're thinking about EQ and how do you get the best out of everyone, and that's business, that's leadership, anything where it comes down to how do you take the time, talent, treasure of the folks that you have in front of you? How are you as the leader then trying to elevate yourself to say, okay, I've got my own stuff I need to square away for sure. Yes, I've got to
Right.
prepare. I've got to know the steps. I've got to know the movements. I've got to know when we're doing a counter march, when we're doing that. But at the end of the day, if there's somebody who's there and they're really struggling, that does affect the entirety of the team. And especially if there's someone who's there for the first time, I hate to say it, but in front of 8,000, 9,000 people per night, there is an element of fear that's probably going to happen with some of the first timers that are there. And you do kind of almost have to be that father figure for potentially someone who's older than you or someone who's,
Yes.
struggling at home. So, like,
Yeah.
do you have any examples of that? Has that ever happened before where you had to, like, literally go and say, you know what? I was in your shoes one time. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And then, like, that person actually did eventually figure it out?
Absolutely, that has happened, and it invariably happens. Again, I remember being on there my first time, and I had been a drum major for 20 some years before my first Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo,
Mm.
and I still had some questions of you almost have imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that thought of it's like
Yes.
I'm about to step across this drawbridge. And there's no control Z on this keyboard. I can't undo this.
I
I
love
can't decide. I can't decide. Once we roll off, I can't just decide. Hey guys, not tonight. I'll see you over at the cast bar later tonight. You can't do that.
that.
So, but yeah, these things happen, and I had a couple drum majors a few years ago as part of our band, and they are the greatest people you'll ever meet. Hearts of gold, and their hearts were in this game 100%.
Yeah.
On that alone, I would work with them anytime,
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
But they had never slow marched before,
Oh,
and they
interesting.
they come into, and slow march is a different beast, right? There's a lot
Mhm.
of people in pipe band in general that we don't really use slow marching outside of something like this, so that's a different beast, and they had never slow marched before, and we're putting them out at Edinburgh Castle, which the esplanade is on a tilt front to rear and left to right. So it's not exactly the most steady footwork if this is your first time ever having to do slow march. So I
Right.
remember getting them out at our accommodation. I remember getting them out to work on it outside of the shows and encouraging them. And I remember one of them had a look on their face when we were getting ready, and it was their time. And I told them, I said, "Go for it, just go for it." And again, language barriers, cultural barriers, everything else. Everybody understands a smile. Everybody understands a handshake. Everybody understands a high five and a fist bump.
Yeah.
And to watch that person nail it and then give them the fist bump on the end, they were crying and they were absolutely loving it. But that's just one example with a
Yeah.
drum major. But yeah, with pipers and drummers as well. And some people are great at performing in front of a large audience, and some people have never had that opportunity before.
Right.
So if you're not used to playing in front of a large audience, this is certainly a big change. So, but absolutely being, you mentioned father figure. I think just through REMT alone, I think I've been a father, brother, uncle, next door neighbor, all those things, but to be a trusted advisor for the band as well, to earn that respect of the band. That's
Yeah.
my first job when I get
Yeah.
there, is to make sure that I earn the trust and respect of our people as a drum
Hmm.
major, and
Hmm.
then to be involved heavily with the band itself. That's been a real positive experience and a wonderful achievement in my own life. But yeah, it's about the people and making sure that they're comfortable and ready to do the show every single night. And like I said, it's a month-long deal. So
Yeah.
some nights are better than others, and
Yeah.
but we always get through it, and the audience is none the wiser.
Well, I mean, what an amazing dream come true. It's just so incredible to talk about it. And then honestly, your sense of compassion and your sense of humility on this too, which is I think what really allows what's going on currently to work. So I mean, transitioning to the Washington tattoo, this is something that we've really based our mission now. We've pivoted. We had a great group of people getting the Washington tattoo to start from a grassroots perspective to just put on a great event. Okay, we checked the box, done that. We've had folks from the old guard, stuff from folks from Marine Barracks, Washington, folks from Cirque du Soleil help us out. Really partnering with the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo this year, there has been a foundational shift of obviously the quality of the product or the production of the show is now elevated because we're bringing on the talent of folks like you, talking with Alan Lane, and obviously Jason Barrett being a phenomenal CEO and leader in that organization. But the Washington Tattoo leaning into the veteran mental health space and leading into the at-risk youth space and showing what music, culture, heritage, regardless if you're Scottish, regardless if you're into pipes and drums, but taking that as a template and using that as a way to inspire the next generation to serve in any capacity, whether it's fire department, police, military, is something we're incredibly passionate about. So bringing you on board this year with your story, even talking about your stepfather and talking about leading by example and all of that. And we talked about this a little bit before we got on live here, but we are honored to have you as the senior drum major for the Washington Tattoo this year. And just if you could, what is that? I mean, I'm not trying to bring anything out that you don't want to say or put you on the
No, no.
spot, but I mean, what was that something that ever had come up in your mind before? Was that something that was like a shock? What was that like?
So this means the world to me, to be selected for senior drum major of the Washington Tattoo and to be the first one. That means the absolute world to me. And knowing that this was becoming a wonderful production and this was growing by leaps and bounds year after year, I was watching to see, how might I get involved with this. But you know, did I see myself becoming senior drum major of it? I can't say that I did. I think we all have dreams and we all have aspirations. I wanted to be involved, but I didn't expect
Hmm.
to be senior drum major, especially not my first time appearing at it, right? But it's an amazing opportunity. It brings together everything that I've done in my own pipe band career overseas in the UK and in Canada as well, and then to bring it here to the US. And one of the things you just mentioned was really important. It kind of stuck out in my mind as you just said it, which is it doesn't matter if you're Scottish or not. I mean, I definitely have that heritage in my bloodline, but I can't tell you that I knew anything about that part of my family
Hmm.
until much later in life. Having said that, you don't have to be Scottish. One of the great things about the tattoo circuit and this tradition is that it all comes from a common etymology. It all comes from a common heritage back to continental Europe. And it all comes back to the beating of the drum at the end of the night and turning off the taps and
Yep.
bringing everybody back to barracks. And it's amazing how many different countries, all of our ceremonial has an etymology back to that. It may look a little bit different depending on where we are on the
Mhm.
planet and depending on who's participating in it. The
Right.
commands will be different, the drill will be a little bit different, but that basic concept of beating retreat has followed out of continental Europe to so many parts of the world. And that, it's interesting enough, it follows the immigration patterns, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a shock that our military has done that for years and years and years. And it's, we may not even realize that people who aren't aware of the tattoo may not even realize that something like the Sunset Parade
Yep.
has an
Yep.
etymology back to that.
Yep.
Even some of our
Exactly.
basic change of command ceremonies have
Yep.
that etymology. So with the Coast Guard pipe band, I've been very fortunate to also serve in that capacity as an auxiliarist. It's funny, I joined the Coast Guard auxiliary to join the pipe band, but then
Hmm.
I got caught up in the other missions and did quite a bit of other things along the way. But we have a National Coast Guard Memorial in
Hmm.
Grand Haven, Michigan every August. And even that ceremony has elements of being part of a tattoo. It has those same principles, especially
Right.
with the pipe band being involved. But this is an amazing opportunity to remind all of us who we are and where we come from.
Hmm.
And as a military musician, I think that rings true to so many that
Yep.
it's a big part of what we do. And to have that tradition be part of the service as one aspect, but then to be able to demonstrate that to an audience who may not realize what it's all about.
Yep.
Speaking back to the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo as well, the whole thing is iconic because if you look at how the regimental system was done and is still done
Hmm.
in Scotland and in the UK, it's based upon geographical locations. They have regimental recruiting areas. So the families and the people were ingrained in
Hmm.
the regimental culture. And there is nothing more iconic than a Scottish soldier. So you may not even realize, you as a layperson or the person listening to this podcast may not even realize what they're looking at, but that cultural representation in Edinburgh, militarily and then arts wise,
Yep.
is so huge to Scottish culture. I mean, there are very few people interested in Scottish culture who don't know what the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo is. They've certainly
Right.
seen it, or at least seen a picture or seen a video
Yeah.
clip these days, right, on social media. But then to be able to do that here in Washington, D.C. as well is going to be a wonderful historic moment and a game changer. And it's an opportunity to introduce what we do to a whole new crowd.
Yep.
I think that speaks to me the most. And I'm really excited to be able to put the experiences that I have to work. And I'm going to work really hard. I think of all the people on that stage floor next week. I'll be up there. So,
Yeah, I love it, and I love it. And this podcast is going to roll out right before we end up actually pressing play on the show on March
okay,
29th. So we're
right.
super excited about it. And I think for us, one of the most incredible things that I think is happening at the moment, and maybe, and I don't want to say it's happening subconsciously. I do want to say it is a little bit by design, but there's only certain things that you need to just tip it a little bit, and all of a sudden that massive boulder starts to roll down the hill, and we can feel it
Right.
happening. But the combination of taking the Edinburgh Military Tattoo as a template and looking at the success of when you put these cultures together from all around the world, people are proud of where they come from, and people want to celebrate, parts of their heritage and their family in their own unique ways, whether it's through
Mhm.
food, whether it's through dance, whether it's through music. And one of the fun things that we've been able to do in DC, and you'll get to see a little bit of it, is that connection in Washington. You have over 120 embassies in Washington. All of the countries from around the world that want to engage with the United States have a footprint in the US, and we're connected with the defense attaches from all of those countries here. And so what you're going to be able to do is really be the mortar and the glue of this template and concept that Edinburgh has done so masterfully for 75 years,
Mhm.
and then really bring this to the United States and just on the precipice of our 250th anniversary. So I think this is really the beginning of a wonderful partnership that's going to last. And when you think about next generations with this, being an American, having the experience with the Edinburgh Tattoo, and I know you have a family as well, but I mean, could you speak to what you think this means for the future of America, and how could this heritage and recognition of it through music, what do you think this could do as a kind of a moment in time? What does this mean to you as an individual?
As an individual, I think this is a wonderfully important opportunity, and the timing of it is just right in the world. Music transcends all languages,
Mhm.
and to bring us all together and have representation from around the world in DC, it's a chance for them to see what it's like here, and it's a chance for them to show what they do back home and bring that to us. And then, as with all things tattoo, you make friends from
Yep.
everywhere on the
Yep.
planet, and they may bring something home that they learned from you.
Yeah.
So, in terms of what the next generations may bring and what this could do, I would be very flattered if someone saw our show and decided to join a band, whether that's a pipe band or fife and drum
Yep.
or a regimental brass band or pursue a military music career or something, I'd be so flattered to know that I was part of that catalyst, because that was a catalyst for me.
Yep.
And that's about sharing the tradition. That's our mantra. That's
Yep.
about
Yep.
paying it forward. I am very interested in the future of drum majoring and in the future of pipes and drums, especially here in North America. And to have new drum majors coming along, if they are inspired
Mhm.
by this show, amazing. That would be the real dream come true right there.
Yeah, I love it, and then and that's something too where you getting involved this year, I'm guaranteeing the friendship and the relationship will deepen. Last year, we actually performed for roughly around 2,000 kids throughout DC public schools. I mean, we hit an opportunity academy that had migrants, refugees, former incarcerated, and the entire place reeked of weed. You could go in there and you're like, okay, and they were not having it. These were kids that were pretty hard kids. They had seen some crazy stuff.
Hmm.
By the end of the performance last year, the Oscott Highland Dancers and the Roland Drones had a slew of these kids on the stage learning how to do a Kaylee. And they were there, they were inner city DC kids, and their hardness, their hard shell just melted when they got the opportunity to be a part of what this community we're talking about is. And so being able to replicate that, doing it consistently where folks that are they're downtrodden or having a hard time can look forward to this one time a year. And the goal is for us to have these consistent quarterly type of events to plug folks in and to bring someone like you on board. We're very much into education. You and I see that eye to eye. The
Yeah.
stewardship of the heritage, using tradition, using education as a tool to better people's lives is something we're really passionate about. And what we're excited about is this March 31st, we've partnered with Cheryl Roach from Oscott and the local Alexandria School of Highland Dance to put on our first ever Highland Dance workshop at the British Embassy here in DC. So there's a lot going on. I'd love for that to blend into a drum major workshop one year, a piper's workshop the next year. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity ahead of us. But from your seat, if you were to look at how we've talked about international camaraderie, but if you had an aspiring drum major that was looking to get involved in this, what would be some advice that you would share with either a young musician or a young drum major wanting to get involved with this activity?
I would tell them to go for it. And the best time to do this is today. Don't wait. Find an instructor, find a pipe band, and ask to join. And get in all the way. Both feet, jump in feet first, both feet, and go. Uh, it's the best way to do it. And to learn more about the pipe band world, I would also suggest that they learn one of the instruments. They don't have to learn them all. I'm one of those crazy people that did learn them all, but it's as simple as just learning how to be a bass or tenor drummer. That is a great way to get introduced to it, or learn snare drum, or learn pipes. But what becomes a great asset for that young drum major is by knowing the music and by being able to play one of the instruments, they become more involved in the band itself and they become part of that family. But there's something to be said if you are a part of a larger show, or if you are part of a competing pipe band and somebody becomes sick or somebody's not able to make a competition, and that drum major, because they play, they're able to know the music and they're able to jump in and be part of that, it makes them extremely valuable.
Mhm.
Other advice that I would give: find a mentor. I said find an instructor, but also pick your mentors, and really pay close attention to who mirrors what you want to be, and
Mhm.
pick that mentor and really follow them, and trust in the process. Follow the script and trust in the process. The reason I say that is with what we do on the tattoo circuit, it's all very script based and it's all meant to be a consistent performance that's repeatable night after night. Go with it. When we get into the tattoo circuit, there's a lot that changes night to night, especially during those rehearsal sessions before the first show has
Mhm.
even happened. What you think is going to happen may change a couple times along the way. I can't say or promise that it wouldn't change for us by this time next week when the show's when the show's rolling out. We might make some changes along the way, but to be flexible and to accept that, hey, this is part of the show, we're just going with it. and trust in the process, follow the script, and I think that drum major will have a very successful career.
Yeah, incredible. Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for your time. I am so excited to work with you this coming week. If folks are interested in contacting you or learning more about your background and your story, how could they find you?
They can find me on social media. Find me on Instagram, Kevin Conquest. Very simple. I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to reach out.
Fantastic. Well, folks, if you're interested in the Washington Tattoo, you can find us at www.thewashingtontattoo.com. And you can find us also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We have our big flagship event coming up on March 29th at Lisner Auditorium in Washington, D.C., starting at 6 p.m. So we are incredibly excited. We will be honoring Vietnam veterans as a commemorative partner for the Vietnam War Commission. And we will also be honoring Gold Star families, former POWs, and we will hopefully have a couple of Medal Honor recipients in the audience that night. So we're incredibly proud and excited to have that. So Kevin, again, thank you so much for your time, and we are honored to welcome you as this year, for the first time, and you're this year's senior drum major for the Washington Tattoo. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's going to be amazing.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Hey everyone, this is Mark Riley again. We want to share a great opportunity with you to get your business name out to our listeners. We are looking for individual episode and yearly sponsors for the Washington Tattoo podcast. So if you love music, history, and want to support military veterans, please take this step with us and consider being a sponsor. For information on that, please email marketing@thewashingtontattoo.com.